Hello, everyone. I am Taylor Jackson. Today's podcast is a question. So if you have any questions, feel free to go over to patreon.com/Taylor Jackson and send me a question. There's a link for the public podcast link. You can also just send me questions if you DM me on Instagram. There's a pretty good chance that I will include that question. If it's one that comes up a few times, or the more that I see it, if I see it for a second time, third time, there's a good chance, 100% chance that I'm probably going to make an episode about it at some point in the future. So today, Jared is asking, how would you recommend getting exposure/experience as a completely portfolio-less photographer? And as you guys know, if you do listen to the podcast or you really consume any of my content at all, my number one suggestion is to always just go out and begin building your portfolio yourself, not waiting for anyone, not waiting for permission or to be discovered or found or contacted, just going out on my own dime and just creating the images that I want to be paid to create someday. I do this in both like weddings, so that I want to shoot more weddings out in the mountains, West Coast Canada. So this year, when I was out there for unrelated things, I set up a bunch of shoots. I guess we were out there for a wedding officially, but we set up as many shoots as I possibly could in the time frame that I was out there. So if that is kind of your dream, it is a bit of a challenging thing if you do have such a, I guess, like an outlandish goal for a portfolio that you want to be hired for destination weddings like hours away from where you live. That's a little more challenging. If you do want to just create great content in your local area, I would say just begin making your portfolio. If you want to begin as a wedding photographer, that just involves connecting with different either dress shops, or if you don't want to go the dress shop route, you can just find some friends that have recently been married. That's one of the early things that I did, that I really kind of pivoted my portfolio, that when I first began as a photographer, that my portfolio was really taking whatever direction it was kind of taking, and I wasn't really in control of it. So for the first couple weddings I shot, it's like 2 or 3 podcasts down now, but I talked about my first wedding, and so those came to me by Craigslist for free, essentially. My first like kind of non-official, non-paid weddings. And then as I started to get a few more weddings under my belt, I realized that my portfolio is great. Like everyone is having fun for the most part in my images, but I really wanted to have kind of a more punk rock vibe, I guess, for lack of a better description. So I had 2 of my friends that had recently been married that really fit that. She had a very non-traditional wedding dress, and we went out and we did a shoot. And up until the last sample album I made, they had been in that book ever since like 2007 when I shot those photos. So by just like doing that one single shoot, that really kind of crystallized what I wanted my portfolio to be at that moment. Obviously things change, things evolve over time, but for that moment in time, that's what I wanted my portfolio to be. That's what I wanted my couples contacting me to do. So that's what I went out and did. The other thing that you can do is spend money on advertising. So once you have a portfolio that you like, or you at least know what genre of photography that you want to be successful in. It's very hard if you don't yet know exactly kind of what you want to be doing. It's hard to create lots of content. I think it's easy. I talked about this the other day, that it's very easy if you're a wedding photographer to also shoot families and like kind of associated things, but it's very difficult in the beginning if you have like 15 different portfolios up on your website. There's no kind of, I guess, like chain of normalness within that, if there's all these different sections. So really focus on one that you want to build now, and maybe next year you'll decide that you want to build something else, and that's totally fine. Like whatever makes you happy, but build whatever you want your future to be. Start building it now, and then spend money on advertising to get in front of the other people that will hopefully be interested in your content. The other thing is that just know that it's not overnight success, that it is going to take time, and really cultivate those early opportunities. That if somebody contacts you for a wedding and you're a little bit like, oh, like I would love to shoot your wedding, and they're not getting back to you, I would just say like offer them a free shoot. So if they inquire for their wedding, say like, I know that I'm new, but I would love to take you guys out for an engagement session, completely free. I'll give you 10 images. No, like you don't have to book with me. I just want to do this. And it's kind of selfish because you want those images for your portfolio, and you probably also want the experience of working with people that are not your friends, because it is a little bit of a jump. Sometimes it's actually easier to work with people that are not your friends. And then I guess the other thing is that if you have a portfolio that's a little bit all over the place, you're not really going to be attracting couples that immediately know what to do for photos, and you'll have to give them a lot more guidance. So if you're not the most comfortable in posing, the more things that you can show on your website that are very similar, the more that they're going to come into the shoot and kind of know exactly what you're looking for as a photographer. That's something that I really just realized like a couple of months ago, that if I'm like creating these really dramatic images, I noticed that a lot of my couples were posing a little bit more kind of like muted and dramatic, rather than like the usual kind of like holding hands, jumping, being happy. Maybe not jumping, but just holding hands, being happy. So it is kind of whatever you're showing on your Facebook page, on your Instagram page, on your website will dictate how people kind of behave. And you can either like welcome that, or you can break that if you want to change it up a little bit. But that's completely up to you. So once you have a good portfolio of images that you like and the genre that you want to exist in, and you have a few dollars to spend on advertising to get in front of those people, Instagram, like swipe up ads are really inexpensive now. And also like you're just like full screen content on somebody's phone, which I think is pretty cool. Instagram story or Instagram regular feed is also good, but not quite as effective, at least in my experience, as far as money and also just general effectiveness goes, as swipe ups. And then Facebook ads are, I would say, good as they've ever been. You can get hyper targeted down to like exactly who you want to be looking at your ad. And I guess like the good thing with that is that that you can like hyper target and figure out exactly who you want to look at your content. But the downside, I guess, is that Facebook is a little bit older of a group. And if you're looking for that 21, 22-year-old bride, there's a pretty good chance that they're probably not on Facebook. But if you're in kind of the 28 to 40 genre, or even like 20, 25, I would say, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to be on Facebook. So they're going to be able to be, this content will go in front of them. Also, you use the same backend for Instagram as you do for Facebook. So all of the tools that you use for Facebook ads and targeting and figuring out like that you're targeting engaged females in your local area within like 20 miles, 20 kilometers or whatever. You can also use those on Instagram as well. So super, super powerful. I would also say, don't get discouraged if like your friends and family aren't immediately sharing absolutely everything that you do, because they've probably seen a lot of their friends and family start photography businesses. So maybe they're not going to take you as seriously as they would have if you would have done this like 7 years ago, because they have seen people like start businesses and then flake out after a couple months. So don't worry if people aren't like immediately behind you 100%. Just keep pushing through it. Also, maybe another thing might be to not officially launch and tell all your friends and family about your portfolio until you are at least like 85% happy with it. I don't think that it's really a strength to launch and to let everybody know that you're doing this photography thing before you have something that you're proud of, before you have like at least the direction that you want your portfolio to go. And maybe that means just like sharing a couple images here and there over the next little bit on Instagram. I like the idea of kind of Instagram, it's micro blogging rather than actually doing like full length blog posts. So you can tease a little bit of content out that way, as well as like obviously giving images to the people that are in your images, but maybe hold back a little bit and do a bigger launch once you have something that you're incredibly proud of. I would also say, because there are so many people that are launching photography businesses, to make it more of an event, like have a physical party or like get people to come to your house to like launch this new genre or this new venture within your life. I feel like that makes it a little more of a real thing specifically for you, to know that like this is like the beginning of hopefully the rest of your life as a photographer, as long as you like it. So those are my thoughts on that. Head over to Patreon if anyone has any, questions for this podcast, or if you want to get all the business and the behind the scenes content, because I do spend a lot of time on Patreon. Every Monday you get a new video, and then every Wednesday you get the secret podcast, which is kind of all about the business aspects that I don't really share on this public podcast. So patreon.com/Taylor Jackson if you're interested. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have a lovely day wherever you are in the world. Also, if you don't follow me on Instagram, maybe head over Instagram.com/Taylor Jackson. I'll leave you with this, is that on Instagram, if you are kind of like struggling to get likes and to get attention on Instagram, I've noticed that Instagram stories, I'm doing about, I would say like 15,000 views on an Instagram story versus maybe like 2,000 to 3,000 likes on an image. So Instagram stories, clearly a lot more people paying attention to it. So really focus and up your game on Instagram stories. Maybe that means creating custom content for it, or actually brainstorming what you want to do when you go out there into the world for the day. Focus on like actually creating like a good story that feels good. You are a storyteller after all, so you should at least be able to tell the story of your day effectively as well as professionally. So maybe something to think about today, because I've definitely noticed that is just like absolutely exploding. So see you tomorrow.